Moving to Southern Oregon seems like a great decision for a lot of people. The cost of living is low, the weather's great, the art scene and culture are top-notch, outdoor recreation's about endless, and the natural beauty is just about as good as you're going to find pretty much anywhere. So what could possibly make somebody completely regret their decision to move here? Every area has its own set of skeletons in the closet, right? And sometimes people don't know about those until after making the move. And on the other side of the coin, there's some really amazing things about the area that sometimes people don't know about those until after they've made the move. So here's what we're going to do in this video. Since you're sitting there watching the Buying Southern Oregon YouTube channel, chances are you're probably trying to figure out whether or not this is a place that you could enjoy living in, but you don't know what you don't know. So what better way to share some of that than to sit down for a conversation with my friend Jim, who was sitting in your exact position about a year ago. So I'm excited for you to hear Jim's story because it was one full of twists and turns and ups and downs and a few surprises along the way. So Jim, how we doing?
Doing good, Brian.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Happy to see you again and happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I heard you had a pretty bad cold there last week.
Yeah, it was a bad one, but we got through it. We survived, and here we are.
Yeah, I had one too. My grandkids came to visit me at Christmas, and one of the gifts that they left me before leaving was RSV.
Oh, boy.
So
yeah.
It was not a good couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
survived it.
We've been getting all sorts of similar gifts from kindergarten and preschool, all the good stuff like
We've
that.
got all those young kids. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
first grade and pre-K. So they're bringing back all sorts of fun stuff.
Little Petri dishes.
That's right. Let's go ahead and get started with some questions here. I would love to start back to kind of flash back in time to the beginning of your journey and thinking, maybe you can set the stage for us a little bit with where were you living, what was going on in your life, and just kind of what got you thinking about making a move in general.
Yeah, no problem. We were living in Central California at the time in SLO County, and it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong. We loved it there. Weather was great. Everything was pretty cool. But what I think in a way, I saw my 70th birthday coming up, and I got thinking about if I don't make this move now, nobody knows how long I have, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking I'd like to be able to do some more fishing. Doing a little bit of local fishing, playing some golf, playing some tennis. It was pretty good, but that piece was missing for me.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is a quilter. She was doing a lot of great stuff down there with all the quilting guilds and whatnot. So she was in a pretty good place. But for me, I just felt like I needed to get going on some more fishing, freshwater fishing.
Yeah. How was the golf camp doing down there?
Oh, well, it's supposed to get better as you play more, but that's not really the case for me. So
It's never happened for me either.
Never happened.
So cool. So fishing, what kind of fishing were you able to do down there?
Well, I did a little bit of bass fishing in some local reservoirs,
Mm-hmm.
but if you really want to get into it, you need to go up into the Sierras
Mm-hmm.
for the trout and some of the other things. I did some fishing in the Delta, Clear Lake, but it was too far away.
Right.
I mean, we'll talk about it, but
Yeah.
the river here is half an hour from my house, so
Right.
I don't have to get a hotel room and drive for 3 hours to go fishing. So,
Yeah. Definitely lots of options
yeah.
for that around here. So that's kind of great segue into the next question, which is just kind of what, with so many areas that you could have chosen from, what was it about, Southern Oregon that got it to be a place of consideration on your list?
Well, I think frankly it boiled down to the weather. If you really take it from the broadest sense, Jim wants to go fishing freshwater. Okay, why don't you move to Florida? Why don't you go to Kentucky?
Right.
Well, we're West Coasters. Frankly, after being on the West Coast for so many years, we want to be here. We want to be close to family. We have some family in LA. So now you're left with Oregon, Washington, California, right? So it really boiled down to the weather. We did a lot of analysis of the weather options in Washington State, in Northern Oregon, and the facts are the facts. This is the best weather in the state, in both states, for that matter. Now, let me be clear. The chart shows that the coast, Brookings area, has better temperature, but much more rain. So this part of Oregon where we are in Medford, near the Rogue, is the best from a weather standpoint.
I want to qualify that for a quick second because you mentioned the charts. And for the people who are not there, Jim is not joking about his charts. Okay. This is a full-on PowerPoint presentation that he has prepared prior to making the move here. This is 20 pages or better of pros and cons and charts and spreadsheets and everything. So when
I'm a nerd. Okay, I'll admit it.
Charts, he knows the charts. So he did his research, which was fantastic, and love to see that. That's awesome.
But it was the weather. I mean, and you know, there's lots of freshwater fishing opportunities.
Yeah,
Northern Oregon, Washington, lots of places.
Right.
On the West Coast, but this has proven to be the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, and as we're recording this right now, we're in Grants Pass, and there's a sign literally a block over that says it's the climate.
Yeah.
And it's no joke. It's been there for 100 years, and it is the exact it's the truth.
Yeah.
That's why so many people come here.
It's true.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. The weather here is not as good as the weather I left in SLO County, California. But again, it's a trade-off. I wanted to be able to fish, and I've been here, 3 months, 4 months, something like that.
Yeah.
And already been fishing dozens of times, caught some great fish.
Yeah.
You know, it's living up to expectations.
Yeah.
From a fishing standpoint.
Yeah. No, it's funny that the way you describe that, because it's something that I talk about in plenty of other videos and maybe some of the ones that you've seen. But but when people are looking at moving to the West Coast, or if you already live on the West Coast and you want to stay on the West Coast, a lot of times you look at, obviously Oregon, California, and Washington are the only options on the West Coast, technically.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a process of elimination, people will typically say is out altogether. I don't want anything to do with California. That happens a lot with people that I hear from. And then you have Washington and Oregon. And so if you look at the northern part of the state of Oregon and you go Eugene and up, all the way up to Seattle, it's a rainforest. And so you get a lot of people who were just like, I don't want anything to do with that either. So now you've taken the West Coast and you've shrunk it down to an area that is essentially Southern Oregon. And you could go east, and you could go to Bend, for example, but Bend is considerably more expensive. And that immediately, eliminates a whole nother set of people. And anything east of Bend, there's really nothing unless you're into ranching or, farming goats or something.
Right.
Not much going on over there. So,
exactly.
So by process of elimination, people really, hone in on Southern Oregon, and it sounds like you kind of arrived at that yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the weather was a key part of it, and obviously the savings.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk about that, but
sure.
The weather proved to be the deciding factor.
Yeah. Have you guys been here prior to making the decision to move here? Yeah,
I think we've been in the area 2 or 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times. I think I mentioned my wife is big in the quilting world, and there's a big quilt show every year up in the summer up in the Bend area, near Bend. And so I came with her, I think on 3 occasions to that show. And while she was at the show, I was fishing. So I got a good taste of Oregon fishing. She actually got a great taste of Oregon from a quilting standpoint.
Sure.
Which, I mean, it's a fantastic environment up here. So it gave her the opportunity to get involved to the same degree, at least to the same degree, maybe more so than where we were.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time. She's working at it. But those quilt shows, oftentimes I remember driving through Medford on the way home thinking and saying to my wife, this looks like a pretty cool place. Maybe we should think about this some year. It was like way down the road thinking, but here we are.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems like in a lot of people that we talk to that are considering moving here, they've either never been here or they've only come here because they've had, a family member or somebody who, went to school here and they came to a graduation at Southern Oregon University or something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to always kind of find out what it was that brought people here and how they, their experience with the area prior to moving here. But was there a point that you remember deciding like, hey, like this is it, this is where we're going to be, Southern Oregon's going to be home, we're moving there?
Well, yeah, I mean, once you chunk through all those charts, you pretty quickly get to that conclusion. I mean, it really was a matter of the Rogue River is unequaled, really, in a lot of cases. You want to be in Bend with the Deschutes, sure, it's a different river, but the Rogue just has an amazing reputation as one of the finest fisheries in the world. So between the fishing in the river and the quilting, it didn't really take that long to identify. I mean, the rest was, okay, let's work through the financials.
Yeah.
It looks great, but what if we can't afford it? Or what if,
Right.
what if, whatever, right? You don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Did you guys consider anywhere else, or was it just kind of you went through your process, looked at your charts, and you decided this is it? This is where we're going.
We didn't. I mean, we didn't consider any other states or other cities in Oregon were in the running until they got eliminated by weather.
Gotcha.
But other than that, we didn't think about Kentucky or anywhere else.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
Not
so
picking on Kentucky. But.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fair enough. They're far enough away. I don't think they're going to do much about it. So we're going to talk more about your experience since moving here, and what you love about it and what you hate about it, and all those sorts of things. But I want to kind of get back into the story and like the process of making this move. Because remember, there were definitely some surprises and some ups and downs and some things that happened throughout the process that we never really anticipated happening. So I mean, if we go into that, you did your research, you had your conversations, and you guys have made your decision that Southern Oregon's it's where we're going. And there's a lot of people that are watching this right now who are probably in that exact same position. They've made that decision. So what was the next step from that point?
Well, I think the first step was to go online, and in my mind it was, we know we can sell the house we're in, probably. I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about that right now, but what's available where we're thinking about living? Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, we had to make choices between cities. We got Southern Oregon figured out, but okay, is it Grants Pass? Is it Medford? Is it Rogue River? Is it White City? I don't know. We don't know anything about these places. So got online, got onto the real estate sites and started looking at homes, and what can we get for in our price range and that sort of thing. So that was the starting point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So and then we got connected.
That's where I found you. I found your channel, and not to suck up, but it really did give me both of us. I remember sitting in the living room with Barb and the big screen TV, and we'd be watching it on there. And you're driving through Grants Pass, or you're taking your little hike up on Table Rock, and doing all these things. I didn't have to get off my couch to see what was happening in those towns. So when you drove through, I think some of them were driving tours, some of them were maybe walking tours.
Yep.
I remember you were walking through some of the parks and talking about homeless people, things of that sort. So that was really helpful.
Yeah. Cool. We're going to talk about that issue here in a second too.
Yeah.
So you guys came into town. You'd seen the videos, you reached out, we set a date, you guys came into town. And I remember, going around and touring a bunch of different types of homes with you guys. And, I remember we found one that you guys really liked, and you fell in love with it. But that didn't really end very well. I do recall that. And I think you guys were even maybe having some second thoughts after that.
Well,
that little experience. So maybe you can share a little bit about kind of that not so fun part of the story, and where things didn't really go as planned, and kind of how that affected your excitement and your plans to move forward.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. And of course, we had some issues on the other end as well.
Yeah,
on the selling side. So maybe we'll circle back to those.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. I fell in love with a house that I was hell-bent on buying. And, that one, I remember the day that Barb saw that house for the first time, and she liked it as well. And I thought, okay, cool, we're good. It just didn't work out. We couldn't come to terms with the owner on price. And the story. It took weeks and weeks and weeks of back and forth, him not answering, him going on vacation, doing all these things. And it was very trying. We were actually in Utah at the time visiting my daughter. And I just recall just how annoying the whole thing was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word I'm going to use.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, there was I had wrote down in my notes here, the seller was a PITA, which is an acronym that will let the viewers figure out what that stands for.
I hope he's not watching.
But it was, It was true. I mean, it
Well,
was,
you know, we did make an offer on another house that they sent back
yeah,
the same price. I don't know what you guys call that in the real estate business, but
not wanting to get a deal done.
yeah, not wanting to get a deal done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't the easiest, but luckily we moved quite a bit in our lives with career moves and so on, both of us. So we kind of this was out of the ordinary for what we'd experienced in the past. But
Yeah.
on the other end, we had 3 offers that fell through on our house in California.
And it was an escrow, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to get into all the detail, but yeah, a couple of them went all the way into escrow and then fell through for various reasons. So
yeah,
it was very odd. It was an odd year.
Yeah.
On both ends. On one end, you thought, well, sell the house, no big deal. Find a house over there, no big deal. Turned out to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's worth, recounting some of that because these are things that people don't foresee. We never thought this was going to happen. We saw that first house and fell in love, and it was like, wow, this is going to go so super smooth. You guys will be up here in no time and spend the summer and all this sort of stuff. And then, next thing you know, seller doesn't want to budge and this and that, and then things fall through on the other. And anyway, the road to getting here to making a move can be very different than what people think, and sometimes it goes this way. But I think it's a good story because at the end of the day, like, yeah, there was some drama, and there was some things that came up that we didn't foresee. But at the end of the day, we persevered. And we found, another home. And so I think, maybe talk about after going through that experience of kind of those ups and downs and drama to then, we walk through the front door of what is now your guys' home. And what was that like, that feeling and then getting that offer accepted and, how smooth that all went. How'd that feel?
Yeah, well, it felt great, obviously, after all that nonsense. But, yeah, I just remember we were looking for a bigger sewing studio for Barb for her quilting, and when we went into the area on downstairs, and she saw that room, it was just amazing. I thought, okay,
yeah,
this is it.
It's perfect.
This is perfect. I mean, and I got my 3-car garage.
Yeah,
so 2 boats and 2 cars. You need a big garage.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it worked out probably better than the original one that we were looking at because the sewing room there was upstairs, wasn't it?
It did work out better from a number of points of view, which is just a lesson for me not to get so hooked on one thing.
Well, and I think a lesson for the people watching this as well is that, people can think that one house, we have to do everything to get it because there might not be something else that comes on. I mean, there's
Good point.
Lots of houses.
Lots of houses out there. Yeah.
Right. So
no, we're really happy with it. We had the kids come up, like I think I mentioned, for the holidays, and 2,800 square feet, 4 bedrooms. Now we have room for guests. Now we have room for the kids to come up with my kids and their kids, my grandchildren, to come up, and we've got a comfortable place for them to stay. So it worked out great.
That's awesome. Great. Love that. So now that you guys have been Southern Oregonians for several months now, let's talk about what life is like being here. So let's why don't we start with first question about that. Is there anything that has just been completely different than what you had expected?
Not really. I can't think of a thing. I think because we'd been here before, because I've done a lot of research, this and that. I think things are pretty much the way I expected them.
Yeah. Good.
No real surprises.
Good. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge with living here?
Well, I think the main challenge is not the living here. It's the fact that we had to leave friends behind in the other city, particularly for my wife with her quilting buddies down there. I like to think of it is that we're going to add new friends up here. So we still have those friends that we had before, and now we're adding new ones. But that's the main challenge, I think, is just having to move away from friends and neighbors.
Yeah, and that's something obviously is going to happen anytime you move.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Okay, what has been your favorite thing about living in Southern Oregon?
The fishing.
Yeah,
you knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
That makes sense.
No, a couple of other quick things. I can get just about anywhere in 20 minutes. We live close to the hospital, a really great, well-known hospital. We found this really cool grocery store. It's not even a grocery store. It's hard to describe. I'm talking about Cartwrights.
Oh, yeah.
With it's the only time I've ever seen a bar in a grocery store. You have a great restaurant inside the store, the grocery store too. It's just you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah. No, big shout out to Cartwrights in Medford. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
We go all the time. And there's one in Grants Pass too, the
Yeah.
original one. Both awesome. Like,
Yeah.
love it. That's where we buy all of our meat as well. And
Yeah.
it's a great store.
Great beer cave too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Amazing. Then they have like some crazy number of beers on tap too.
Well, yeah, the bar right in there. You sit down.
Yeah.
Have a beer.
Yeah.
While you're getting your groceries.
Yeah. Why is it taking you 2 hours to go grocery shopping? That's funny. So financially, how has it been compared to how you'd expected? Pretty on par?
Oh, it's it's coming in exactly on par. We'll talk about the real estate part of it in a minute, but we planned that we would save $2,000 a month living here. So property taxes cheaper.
Yep.
We've got no sales tax. We save $500 a month in sales tax.
Jeez.
I calculated.
Wow.
At the pump, gasoline prices cheaper. Just about a lot of things, wherever you go, things just seem to be a little bit cheaper. And of course,
yeah,
the cost of the mortgage every month is a little bit lower, and so but the total rolls up to $2,000 a month.
Wow.
And so far it's living up to that.
Yeah. How about homeowners insurance? I know that's something that has been at top of mind of a lot of people I've been talking to recently because of the fires and stuff in Southern California. Yeah. How is the price of your homeowners insurance here compared to what it was down there?
Barb handles that particular thing, but I want to say it's similar cost wise. Mm-hmm. Possibly a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it totally varies on where you are location wise, but I know especially in like the higher fire risk areas. I was talking to a guy, a client of mine the other day who was planning to move here from Santa Cruz, and their insurance between homeowners and fire and flood went up sevenfold. Like they got dropped by their insurance company, and it went up sevenfold.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
3,000 to 21,000.
Yeah.
Something like that is sevenfold. That's insane.
That is insane. Yeah, that didn't happen with us.
Yeah,
I think it depends on where you are exactly, but
yeah, we get a lot of questions about homeowners insurance and stuff like that. And so if that's something that you're questioning as you're watching this video, just reach out and we can have a conversation about that, because it's something that's different. The way they do it in Oregon is different than how they do in California.
Right.
The state laws that you cannot drop. Your insurance company can't drop you this year, right? They can't do that. It's illegal. And wildland fire insurance is included in your homeowner's insurance. And that's something that's, from what I understand, different than what they do in California. So moving on from the financial, I think it would be fun to get into some of the more controversial issues and have a little fun for a second. So
do you want to talk about the real estate deal?
Sure. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Let's go into that.
So keep in mind, we made a lot of money on our house.
Yeah.
And went from 2,000 square feet to 2,800 square feet and ended up landing here with a pretty decent chunk of cash.
Yeah.
And that was a huge part of, maybe why move here? Well, that was a big part of it.
Sure.
So not only are we saving $2,000 a month just in ongoing expenses, we show up here with a huge chunk of change, which is great because we were able to do some things with the house right away.
Yeah.
We had all this cash in hand. Right.
Yeah.
Barb needed hardwood floor in her sewing studio. Boom, done.
Yeah.
New carpets in the house, done. Now we're working on a landscaping plan that we're going to have done in April to do the whole outside. So, and not to mention, I might have bought a few things for the boat, but having that money in hand is huge.
Yeah, I'm sure.
From a financial standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's another big reason people are doing the same thing. Go down in California, 3-bed, 2-bath house in a lot of areas is worth, multiple times what it is here. Yeah. And so they're able to cash out, take that money, come up here. And a lot of people are, are able to pay cash fully for the homes up here and be in a really great position where, like you're saying, you're saving thousands of dollars a month now. Yeah. So, yeah, great position.
See what it says on the cover of that presentation there?
Cashing out, take the money and run.
That's right.
Perfect. No, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
You nailed it. So,
all right. Controversial
issues. So it's no secret. You said you moved here from California. There's a reputation that for whatever reason exists that people think that when they move up here from California, they are hated. And so I wanted to see, have you been run off the road? Have you been cussed out, ran out of town, or have you been welcomed with open arms?
I've pretty much been welcomed. I mean, yeah, sure, your California license plate for a little while until you get your Oregon plates,
Mhm.
but nothing ever really happened for us. I mean,
Yeah.
so I can't point to anything like that.
Yeah. I've
Honestly.
never heard of anything like that actually happening. So
Yeah,
just
yeah, I think it's
for the
it's a
record.
rumor.
It is. It's
Yeah.
funny because we hear that all the time. I'm like, I honestly, most people who complain, if you read the comments, you'll keep the Californians out or don't California or Oregon. It's like, look, most people that are moving here from California are of the similar mindset. They're leaving California for a reason, because they're tired of the cost. They're tired of whatever the case may be, right?
Right.
And so they are fleeing that. They're not kind of trying to come here and recreate that.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something that people just don't realize. And in addition, most of the people that are here are from California.
I was
Whether
just
it
going to say
10
that.
years ago or
Yeah.
whatever. My family, they moved here from California when I was 4 years old. So technically I'm a Californian, I guess, but I don't identify as one. So
Right.
I'm Oregonian.
Yeah, I just joined this fishing club, and I was at the first meeting, and they get you to stand up and say hello and talk to the folks about where you came from, introduction, and so forth. And later on, I talked to a gentleman, and he said about 40% of the people in this room are from California.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's it's just what it is.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but nothing. No, I mean we've enjoyed the small town sort of lifestyle, the less traffic. You don't get honked at as much when you cut somebody off
Yeah.
by accident. Like I said before, I can get it just about anywhere in 20 minutes. So it's a good feeling. We enjoy that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Next controversial conversation was, so you guys spent a lot of time here in the summer, as we were looking at houses and those sorts of things. Did you feel like you were inundated with wildfire smoke?
No, we were not.
Okay.
Not that particular summer. I know that there's been some history, but
Yeah.
the history is everywhere on the West Coast. I think almost everywhere you go, there's been a wildfire in the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah, and it always depends on wind direction and location of the fire and all that kind of stuff. So it's,
it could happen tomorrow, but for now,
yeah,
we're in good shape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Winter, we're currently in winter. How is that? Foggy, cold, tolerable?
Well, keep in mind, I grew up in Canada, in Toronto area, lived in Chicago, so I know what winter is. This is not winter.
Right.
This is not winter. Sure, it rains a little bit more. I love the big old cloud banks that sit on the mountains because they're so beautiful. And yeah, I drove over here just now in the rain, but it's rain.
Yeah,
No big deal.
Yep.
I know from my charts that it's the least amount of rain that I can get and live in Oregon.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, within reason at least. Yeah. I mean, you could go again, like you could go way over Eastern Oregon in the desert, but
right,
that's not even reasonable.
No steelhead over there.
Exactly. So yes. What about the homeless issue? Has that been I guess, relative to what you'd seen when you were doing your research ahead of time?
Well, it seemed like it was such a big deal in the research. I know you'd done a couple of videos on it,
mm-hmm.
and it was a bit of a concern, but I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're homeless. I know kind of what areas of the city they tend to be in. My daughter used to work with homeless people. I get it. I understand what's going on there. But it's not this oppressive, they're on every street corner kind of deal.
Yeah.
That's not what it is at all.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
That's what my experience has been very much the same. And that's why I talk openly about it on this channel and in the videos and stuff. And so, and then I've shown it. I've walked right through, Riverside Park down here in Grants Pass. I'm like, hey, here's the camera showing me in Riverside Park.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing homeless people here.
Yeah.
I know that they can be and they exist and all that sort of stuff. But maybe I got to come back a different time. I don't know. But here I am right now.
No,
it's hard to argue with that. And
right.
So it's good to hear your experiences, similar.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
I'm assuming, drugs and crime, probably similar type of a thing. You probably haven't had any encounters or issues with that type of situations either?
Not while I'm on my boat.
Yeah, that's good.
No drugs or crime allowed.
Yeah, good. No drug running up the Rogue River or anything?
No.
Cool. Okay, and then politics. Everybody's favorite topic. Have you ever felt, I don't know what your expectation was coming in. I'm sure, like you said, you did your research, but you probably got a chart on this, honestly. But I'm curious of what your expectation versus experience was, and if you ever felt like, it's really over the top one way or the other, or if somebody, on this side or that side might even feel unwelcome in Southern Oregon.
Well, I think coming from a liberal environment, and thinking if you're not paying attention, you think that Oregon is liberal because the northern part of the state is, right? So folks have to know that that's not the case here,
right,
in Southern Oregon. That was a bit of a aha moment for me
mm-hmm.
before we moved here. So what does that mean? There's more Trump Vance signs here than in Portland. So what? I mean, that hasn't really been an issue for us. We haven't been confronted by anyone, or it hasn't been awkward with anyone. I mean, we've got folks from both sides all over this country. So if you run into somebody who thinks differently than you do, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, move on.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it, and that's what I try to explain similarly. A lot of videos is like, hey, my experience is everybody's pretty much, to a large degree, to each your own, and kind of more focused on being, an American than a Republican or a Democrat or whatever, and tend to just be, it doesn't really come up. It doesn't seem like the area is as political as maybe some of the others, like Portland, for example, is obviously very political, but it doesn't seem like it's very like that in my experience. You don't see a lot of, marches for this or that and protests all over the place. Like you just don't, doesn't happen.
No, exactly.
So, yeah.
I mean, I go out with fishing guides occasionally, and typically you end up in a boat with some strangers, and you're fishing for a whole day, right? So you're exposed to all kinds of people. Never been an issue. Never come up.
That's awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So, okay. Well, despite all of the things Southern Oregon has to offer, are there any things that you miss about California?
Well, I think I would just go back to our friends and neighbors. That's what you miss when you leave. I was part of a tennis club down there in Napomo, and I miss all my tennis gang from there, and but I've just got a new tennis gang in Ashland now at the club there. So yeah, that's the main thing that we miss, I think. Yeah,
and that's makes sense.
Yeah,
I think everybody does that. Regardless of where you go.
Right.
So
right.
that makes a lot of sense. What advice would you share with those considering making the exact same move as you made?
Well, I think I would go back to say, do your homework.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to whatever's important to you, you got to dig into it. It's so easy to do in the internet these days that, you should be able to find out everything you need to know. Like we were saying, with the, sort out the weather thing. You've got hobbies. Are your hobbies available in the area that you're looking at? The financials. Do your financials. Don't get here and be surprised that, oh my gosh, I can't afford to live here. All those kinds of things. It's a question of do your homework.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Watch Brian's channel.
Thank you. I didn't pay him to say that.
What? I'm not getting paid for this?
Oh, well, we'll talk.
Okay.
Is there anything that you wish you, would have known now, or wish you would have known then that you know now?
That the guy with the first house was a jerk? I wish I'd known that then.
Yeah.
And I know it now. No, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah. Okay. Anything you would have done differently?
No, not really. I mean, everything went pretty much as planned. There's bumps in the road. I mean, I don't think I told you this one. The moving van shows up from storage and brings our stuff. And he pulls up a couple streets over and he knocks on the door. And long story short, he says, I can't get this truck to the front of your house. The street's too narrow for this 40-foot trailer to get in, but I might not be able to get out. So we're going to have to go and rent 2 more smaller trucks. Transfer your goods onto these other 2 trucks. We'll do that for you for another $2,000.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wish I'd known before.
Yeah.
We made the move.
Nice little surprise at the end.
Yeah.
Jeez.
surprises. But,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah.
It's in the rearview mirror now. And you don't lay awake nights thinking about, what happened to that $2,000?
Yeah.
You just go fishing and have fun, and go quilting and have fun. And
Yeah. It's funny that, so it just reminded me. So the book ending this whole thing of your experience, that's the last end is you get this surprise $2,000 at the end as you're moving into your
the
house.
very last step.
The very first step, though, was a bit of a surprise because I remember you got stuck in the driveway.
Well, thanks for digging me out. That was a little bit of snow that day.
Snowstorm.
A little bit of snow that
That
day.
was pretty fun.
Very little.
But, yeah, it
When you're
was.
driving a car with no snow tires and rear-wheel drive.
Yeah,
Like-
and it was just the perfect type of snow, that slushy snow that just compacted, and I remember that.
Which we haven't had any this year so far.
None.
No
none.
snow.
Yeah, it's coming, though. I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to be coming this week. So
Maybe.
last question is the most important question, and that is, who is the best real estate agent in all of Southern Oregon?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
It's a tough one.
Can I get back to you on that one?
Yeah, you could write it.
Okay.
So if you're in the same position as Jim was, I really encourage you to do the same thing that Jim did and do your research. Make sure that you have a good understanding of what you're getting yourself into, and do a spreadsheet, do a PowerPoint, whatever it is that you like to do to help yourself make these decisions. Do those things, because it's a big decision making a move like this and evaluating Southern Oregon in various areas. So really encourage you to do that, and also to reach out. Call me, text me, email me, whatever you would like to do. My information is on the screen. It's also in the description of this video. So reach out. I'd be more than happy to help you, and I look forward to hearing from you. And Jim, appreciate you. Thank you for letting us help you find your new home and make this move and be part of the process. So appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.